What's up everyone, and welcome to some retro news. Another update on the Mr. FPGA PlayStation Core. If you check the developer's GitHub page, you will see that he's giving you more detail on what needs to be implemented for each part of the PlayStation hardware. It's mostly very technical, but a good way to keep track of the core's progress. And as far as performance to the core is concerned, it's running fast. So fast that it's getting better frame rates than an original PlayStation. So the developer is planning on adding options to change the speed of the core. This option would be useful for purists that might prefer the original PlayStation performance, and also some games might actually depend on that specific original speed to work properly. Otherwise, getting some better frame rates is always nice to have. The developer also has a video giving you detailed overviews on how the actual PlayStation GPU works, and also how he's implementing the GPU for his Mr. Core. The video can give you an idea on what developers must go through to create a core and the issues that can arise because of the differences between the Mr. FPGA and the original console. 135 Dreamcast and 349 Xbox prototypes have been dumped. The dumps include early development builds of games, tech demos, and some games that were never released. Notable releases from the Dreamcast batch are prototypes of Jet Grind Radio, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and Sega GT. The Xbox batch includes some tech demos along with early prototypes and unreleased games. Crimson Skies, Crazy Taxi 3, and Thief Deadly Shadows are among some of the notable ones. Something surprising I found out in the article was just how far Xbox emulation has come along. Of the 349 Xbox games in the batch, only 80 of them needed real hardware to run. The rest were capable of running using emulation. I've never tried original Xbox emulation, so I'm definitely going to put aside some time and check it out. These releases are part of Project Deluge. Project Deluge is an ongoing project to archive and assess all of the items featured in a lot of video game development material that has been gathered over the course of many years. This has been made possible through the dedication of only one extremely kind individual who has taken the Herculean task of dumping every single thing in the lot by themselves. Projects like these help with the preservation of gaming material instead of just letting it be forgotten. Someone is creating a remake of the PlayStation hit game Castlevania Symphony of the Night, not for a modern game console or PC, but for the Sega Genesis. It's not going to be an exact port, but more of a reimagining of the game and be closer to a linear side-scroller like the original games. So far, he has done a great job recoloring some sprites and backgrounds to work with the Sega Genesis color palette. He also says that the Genesis handles the original animations like a champ. On his YouTube channel, you can check out some test levels and see just how impressive the current work is. Being that the Genesis was made for this type of game, it should be able to capture the gameplay just fine. Graphically and content-wise, it will obviously be a downgrade. So far, there seems to be no sound, but I would love to see just how the Symphony of the Night soundtrack would sound using the Sega Genesis audio chip. AMD's Fidelity Effects Super Resolution, or FSR for short, has now been ported to RetroArch as a shader that you can choose. Just what is FSR? Well, it's a method of rendering a game at a lower resolution and then use AMD's upscaling technique to improve image quality and output at a higher target resolution. The final output should come close to the quality as if it was rendered at that native resolution. For instance, if you want to play PlayStation 2 games in RetroArch at 4K resolutions, but the games run too slow in 4K, you can then use FSR to actually render the game at a resolution that's easier to handle for your machine, and then FSR does its magic to upscale it to 4K. FSR is great for 3D games and will give you a performance boost to play games at higher resolutions. As good as FSR is for 3D games, you will not want to use it for 2D games because it will actually look worse. The upscaling will ruin the sharpness of the pixel art. So while FSR will work great for cores such as the PlayStation 2 and N64 cores, you will want to disable it for any 2D games in those cores and any cores from any 2D systems. The FSR on RetroArch will work with Direct3D 10, 11, and 12, OpenGL, Metal, and Vulkan. RetroArch also added HDR support for Direct3D 11 and 12. To use this feature, your hardware also needs to support HDR, and HDR needs to be enabled in Windows. HDR should be useful for the lighting in 3D games. It should allow you to see greater contrast and detail in very dark and very bright scenes. And like FSR, I honestly don't see how it would be useful for 2D games. But if you have any use cases for 2D games, please let me know in the comments. Since it only works in the Direct3D 11 and 12 driver, HDR is currently only limited to Windows machines. While the Xbox port also uses Direct3D, there are currently some display issues preventing HDR from working there. So that's it for this episode. I provided links in the description to all my news sources in case you want further information. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to receive future updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.